Belle's eyes widened, the spoonful of mashed avocado trembling in her hand. The room went silent, the air thick with awkward tension. Pete's grin faltered when Ethan's sharp gaze landed on him like a warning shot. "Park," Ethan said slowly, his tone low and icy. "That's not a funny joke." Park raised both hands in surrender, realizing he might have struck a nerve. "Hey, I was just kidding, man. Relax." But Belle wasn't laughing. Her face flushed as she glanced at Ethan, then back at the half-eaten bowl in front of her. Her heart raced for reasons she couldn't quite name. The scent that had made her nauseous earlier, the sudden craving for avocado, her thoughts started connecting dots she wasn't ready to acknowledge. "I'm not pregnant," she said quickly, forcing a small laugh, though her voice came out thinner than she wanted. "It's probably just stress. Long shifts, sleepless nights, you know." Ethan studied her carefully, his expression unreadable. He didn't press further, but his mind was already racing. Pete, trying to lighten the mood, chuckled nervously. Right. Stress makes you crave weird stuff. I once ate peanut butter with chili sauce for a week straight during finals." Belle smiled politely, but her eyes drifted to the table. She wasn't listening anymore. Ethan reached out and gently touched her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. "You okay, baby?" he asked softly. Belle nodded. "Just tired, Ethan. I'll go rest after this." Mr. O, who had been discreetly standing by the corner, cleared his throat. "Shall I prepare ginger tea for you, young mistress? It might help with the nausea." She hesitated, then smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Mr. O. That would be nice." The dinner ended quietly. Park and Pete exchanged glances as they excused themselves, both muttering vague goodbyes. Ethan remained seated, watching Belle sip her tea. She looked peaceful, yet something about her silence unsettled him. Later that night, when they were in their bedroom, Belle stood by the balcony, staring at the moonlit garden below. Ethan approached quietly and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You've been distant since dinner," he murmured against her hair. She leaned into him, sighing. "It's nothing, really. I just felt a little embarrassed, that's all." Ethan turned her around gently so she faced him. "Embarrassed? Belle, you don't need to explain yourself to anyone. Least of all Park." "I know." Her voice softened. "But what if it's not just stress?" Ethan froze. For the first time that evening, Belle met his eyes, her own wide and uncertain. "Belle," he began carefully, "are you saying—" "I don't know yet," she whispered, cutting him off. "I don't want to assume anything. I'll take a test tomorrow." Quietly. Ethan searched her face, then slowly smiled, though his heart was thundering. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together, okay?" She nodded, resting her forehead against his chest. "Okay." Outside, the night breeze carried the faint scent of rain. Inside, the powerful CEO and the soon-to-be doctor held each other in silence, neither ready to face what tomorrow might bring. But deep down, both already knew, something was changing. The next morning, soft daylight crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ethan and Belle's bedroom. The air was calm, scented faintly with coffee and garden dew. Belle stirred beneath the sheets, her mind foggy but her heart uneasy. Ethan wasn't beside her. The sheets were cool where his warmth should have been. She sat up slowly, eyes falling on the small breakfast tray on the nightstand, eggs, toast, and a single white mug of ginger tea, still steaming. There was also a note in Ethan's sharp, elegant handwriting. "Good morning, Dr. Perez. I didn't want to wake you. I'm in the study. Eat first, then we'll talk. E." Belle smiled faintly. He always had a way of being both commanding and gentle. But her smile faded almost instantly. The thought of "we'll talk" twisted her stomach into knots. She barely managed a few sips of tea before she slipped out of bed and went to the bathroom. The small white box on the counter seemed to glare at her. She had asked one of her classmates to discreetly bring her a pregnancy test on the pretext of a clinical project. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped it. The silence was heavy, only the faint hum of the air conditioner filled the space. She tried to breathe evenly as she waited. 1 minute. 2. Her heart pounded in her chest as she looked down. 2 lines. Belle's breath caught. She blinked once, twice, as if hoping it would change. It didn't. The lines were clear, sharp, real. Her knees almost gave way. She clutched the edge of the sink, staring blankly at her reflection. The strong, composed woman she had always tried to be, the medical student who wanted to prove herself not as Adele Val, but as Belle Perez, suddenly looked frightened. Tears welled in her eyes. This can't be happening now, she thought. She had her final rotations, her exams, her plans, her dreams. And Ethan. She took a deep, shaky breath, wiping her tears. Okay, she whispered to herself. Calm down. You're Belle. You can handle this. After a few minutes, she composed herself, hid the test deep inside a drawer, and splashed her face with water. Then she stepped out, quiet, steady, but with a storm building behind her calm. Ethan was sitting in the study, laptop open but untouched. His mind wasn't on work. The conversation from last night replayed in his head again and again. Belle's pale face, the nausea, the cravings, it all made sense now. When the door opened, he looked up. Belle entered slowly, her expression unreadable. Morning, he said softly, standing. Morning, she replied, forcing a small smile. Ethan watched her cross the room, her movements graceful yet distracted. She sat down across from him. You didn't eat, he noted quietly, glancing at the untouched plate in her hand. I couldn't, she admitted. Then, before he could ask, she met his gaze. Ethan. I took the test. He froze, eyes searching hers. And? Belle swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry. It's positive. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The ticking clock on the wall filled the silence between them. Ethan exhaled slowly, almost in disbelief. He sank back into his chair, his mind spinning. You're sure? Belle nodded. I took 2. Both the same. Ethan stood abruptly, running a hand through his hair. He turned away, pacing, his expression a storm of emotions, shock, confusion, awe, fear, something else he couldn't name. Belle watched him silently, her heart breaking a little at the sight. Ethan, she said quietly. Say something. He stopped, back still to her. He breathed out, then turned around slowly. His eyes softened when they met hers. I wasn't expecting this. Not now. I know, she said, her voice trembling. Neither was I. He walked over, kneeling in front of her. Hey, he said gently, taking her hands. Look at me. We'll figure this out, okay? You're not alone in this. Tears filled Belle's eyes again. I don't want people to think I gave up my career for this, Ethan. I've worked so hard to get where I am. Ethan smiled faintly. And you won't. You're still going to be Dr. Belle Perez. Or should I say, Dr. Del Val. She laughed softly through her tears. That's months away. Let's not jinx it. He leaned forward, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Then let's just take it one day at a time. We'll talk to your consultant later, adjust your rotations if needed. Whatever it takes. Belle nodded, her heart swelling at his calmness. She had expected him to panic, but instead, he was steady, reassuring. That was Ethan Del Val, fierce in business, but soft where it mattered. Later that day, as Belle prepared to leave for the hospital, Mr. Mack noticed her pale face and quiet demeanor. Young mistress, are you all right? Belle smiled faintly. Just tired, Mr. Mack. He nodded, though concern lingered in his eyes. I'll drive carefully today. You rest in the back, yes? She nodded, settling into the seat. Her hands instinctively rested on her abdomen. There's a life here, she thought, her mind spinning with questions, about her future, her career, her identity, her love. She didn't notice the quiet smile that played on Ethan's lips as he watched her car pull away from the mansion gates from his office window. He wasn't afraid anymore. Because now, there was something worth protecting more than his empire, the small, fragile hope that had just begun inside the woman he loved. The hospital corridors buzzed with their usual rhythm, nurses pushing carts, interns shuffling between wards, the hum of conversation and monitors filling every corner. Belle moved through it all with her clipboard pressed close to her chest, her white coat fluttering slightly as she walked. To anyone watching, she looked perfectly composed. But inside, she was trembling. Her heart beat faster than usual, not from exhaustion but from the secret she carried, the quiet, invisible truth growing inside her. Every time she caught her reflection in the glass walls or polished floor, she almost didn't recognize the woman looking back. "Belle, you okay?" Shine's voice broke through her thoughts. Belle blinked, forcing a smile. "Yeah. Just a little dizzy." Shine frowned, stepping closer. "You skipped breakfast again, didn't you?" "Maybe," Belle admitted softly. "You know you can't keep doing that," Shine said, lowering her voice. "You'll pass out one of these days. Come on, the air's already full and Dr. Ramos looks like he swallowed a lemon." Belle chuckled faintly, grateful for the distraction. "I'm coming." They entered the emergency room, where the consultant, Dr. Ramos, known for his strict, almost military-like approach, was already barking orders. "Perez, case 4. Male, 34, motorcycle accident. Shine, assist with vitals. Phil, I want the chart updated every 15 minutes. "Yes, doctor," they chorused. Belle quickly donned her gloves and mask, her mind shifting to autopilot as she assessed the patient. BP 110/75, pulse 98, mild concussion, lacerations on the left arm and shoulder. "No sign of internal bleeding," she reported efficiently. Dr. Ramos gave a curt nod, his sharp eyes briefly meeting hers. "Good. Proceed with the sutures." Belle steadied her hands, threading the needle and stitching the wound carefully. Despite her fatigue, her precision was flawless. But halfway through the procedure, her vision swayed. The edges of the room seemed to blur. "Belle!" Phil called softly, noticing her hesitation. She blinked fast, shaking her head. "I'm fine," she murmured. But she wasn't. A wave of nausea hit her so suddenly she barely managed to step back before pulling off her gloves. "Excuse me," she stammered, rushing toward the nearest washroom. Shine and Phil exchanged worried glances before looking at Dr. Ramos. The senior doctor frowned. "What's wrong with her?" "She's probably sick, sir," Shine replied quickly. "She hasn't been eating properly these past few days." Dr. Ramos's brows furrowed deeper, but he didn't comment. "Check on her after the procedure," he said curtly. "We don't need anyone fainting on my floor." Belle clutched the edge of the sink, breathing hard. Her reflection in the mirror looked pale, beads of sweat forming along her hairline. She rinsed her mouth and splashed cool water on her face, whispering to herself, "You can't lose it now, Belle. Hold it together." She straightened up, took a deep breath, and returned to the ER. Shine immediately rushed to her side. "Are you sure you're okay? You look like you just ran a marathon." "I'm fine," Belle said with a small, reassuring smile. "Just something I ate last night." Phil raised a brow. "Avocado." She froze for a split second, then shot him a glare. "Don't you start." He grinned. Okay. Just checking." But the look Shine gave her wasn't teasing. It was thoughtful, curious. Shine had known Belle long enough to recognize when something was off, and this wasn't just fatigue. Later, during their lunch break, Shine cornered her near the hospital garden. "Belle, level with me. Are you?" She trailed off, searching her friend's eyes. Belle exhaled, lowering her gaze. "I don't know how to tell anyone yet, Shine. Not even the others." Shine's eyes softened immediately. "Oh my God. You are?" Belle nodded silently. "I found out this morning." "Does Ethan know?" "He does." "And?" Belle smiled faintly. He took it better than I did. Shine laughed softly, tears pricking her eyes. I'm so happy for you, Belle. You're going to be an amazing mom. Belle's smile wavered. Thank you. But I can't let anyone else find out yet, Shine. Not until I figure out what to do about my internship and rotations. Of course, Shine said quickly. My lips are sealed. They sat together for a few moments in silence, the afternoon sun filtering through the trees. Shine, Belle whispered. I'm scared. I know, Shine said gently, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. But you've faced worse. You'll be fine. And you have Ethan, that man would move heaven and earth for you. Belle smiled weakly, resting her head on her friend's shoulder. I hope so. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan stood by his office window, his phone pressed to his ear. Dr. Ramos, he said calmly. It's Ethan Delval. I wanted to ask about the performance of one of your interns, Belle Perez. There was a pause before the consultant's stern voice replied, Mr. Delval, your fiancée is one of the best I've ever had. But she's been off lately. Fatigued. Distracted. I was about to speak with her about it. Ethan's jaw tightened. I see. Please don't pressure her for now. She's going through something important. Dr. Ramos's tone softened slightly. Understood. I'll keep an eye on her. When the call ended, Ethan stood in silence for a long time. His mind was already working, planning. He knew the media would eventually find out. The investors, the board, the family name, all of them would have opinions. But none of that mattered to him right now. All that mattered was Belle. He picked up his phone again and called Mr. O. Start preparing the private wing at the estate. I want the guest room turned into a rest suite, comfortable, quiet. She's not to know yet. And make sure fresh avocados are stocked daily. Yes, sir, Mr. O replied. Ethan hung up, his gaze fixed on the skyline beyond his window. The city buzzed beneath him, oblivious to the storm and miracle unfolding in his world. He smiled faintly. You have no idea what you've started, Belle, he murmured to himself. But I'm not letting you face it alone. That evening, when Belle returned home, the mansion felt unusually warm and calm. The lights were dimmed, the dining table was already set, this time with her favorite soup and a small bowl of sliced avocado. Ethan was waiting for her at the table, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, looking every bit the man who had spent the day thinking of nothing else but her. Rough day? He asked softly as she walked in. She sighed, dropping her bag on the couch. You could say that. He walked over, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. Eat first. Then we'll talk about everything else. Belle nodded silently. As they sat down together, a fragile peace settled over the room, one that hinted not at endings, but at the beginning of something far bigger than either of them had planned. And though neither said it aloud, they both knew. Their world had just changed forever. Weeks passed. The cool morning air of Lagos carried the scent of wet pavement and coffee as Belle hurried into the hospital, her ID swinging against her chest. The once vibrant stride that used to announce her presence had softened. Her steps were slower, more careful. Her coat, once crisp and fitted, now buttoned awkwardly near her midsection. She had learned how to hide it, loose scrubs, long coats, scarves tied casually around her waist, but every day, it became harder. Belle had never missed a rotation in her life. She had never arrived late, never failed to stand for long hours in the ER or spend sleepless nights on call. But lately, her body reminded her of its limits. And despite the mask of calm she wore, fatigue clung to her like a shadow. Shine noticed first. They were in the staff pantry when Belle leaned against the counter, eyes closed. You okay? Shine asked softly. Belle opened her eyes, smiling faintly. Yeah. Just dizzy. That's the third time this week, Shine whispered, crossing her arms. You can't keep this up, Belle. You're overworking yourself. Belle sighed, reaching for a cup. I can't stop now, Shine. Not when I've come this far. Shine hesitated. And what about the baby? Belle froze. Her fingers tightened around the cup. She didn't look up. Don't say that here, she murmured. Belle. Please, Shine. Belle's voice cracked slightly. Not here. Shine pressed her lips together, nodding. Okay. But you need to slow down. At least talk to Dr. Ramos. You can't keep pretending you're fine. Belle gave a soft, almost defeated smile. He'll take me off rotations if he finds out. And I can't let that happen. Not now. Shine didn't argue. She knew better. Belle was stubborn, but her heart was in the right place. That afternoon, during rounds, Dr. Ramos noticed a faint tremor in Belle's hands as she reviewed a patient's chart. He paused mid-sentence. Miss Perez, he said, his sharp tone drawing everyone's attention. Are you unwell? Belle straightened immediately. No, sir. Just a little tired. His eyes narrowed slightly. You've been tired for several weeks, it seems. Phil glanced sideways at Shine, uneasy. Dr. Ramos continued. You are one of my best interns, Miss Perez. I don't want to see your performance decline. Take care of your health. The body isn't a machine. Belle gave a respectful nod. Yes, doctor. He held her gaze for a long moment before turning to address the next patient. But as he spoke, Belle could feel his eyes occasionally flicking back toward her. He knew something was off. That evening, Belle returned home to find the mansion glowing warmly, the scent of baked bread and fruit filling the air. Mr. O greeted her with his usual gentle smile. Welcome home, young mistress, he said, taking her coat. Dinner is ready, and Mr. Del Val has been waiting. Belle smiled tiredly. Thank you, Mr. O. It smells amazing. She walked into the dining room to find Ethan setting down his phone. He looked up immediately, concern flashing across his face. You look exhausted. She laughed weakly. You say that every day. Because it's true, he replied, pulling out a chair for her. Belle sat, resting a hand on her abdomen unconsciously. Ethan noticed the movement. He always did, but didn't comment. He had learned to let her bring things up on her own time. After dinner, he led her to the sofa. You're pushing too hard, he said quietly. I can't stop now, she murmured, closing her eyes as he massaged her shoulders. If I fall behind, people will say I only got this far because of you. Ethan paused. Belle, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Yes, I do, she said, turning to look at him. You might not care what people say, but I do. I don't want anyone to think I gave up my dream because I got pregnant. I've worked too hard for this. Ethan studied her face, admiration and worry warring in his eyes. You're incredible, you know that. Belle smiled faintly. You keep saying that. I might start believing you. He leaned forward, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Good. Because I mean it. Later that night, Belle sat by the window of their bedroom, watching the rain slide down the glass. Her hand rested lightly on her stomach. She had started to feel it now, the faint, fluttering movement beneath her skin, like a secret heartbeat only she could hear. It terrified her. It thrilled her. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like, to hold that tiny life in her arms, to see Ethan's eyes reflected in theirs. A tear slipped down her cheek, but this time it wasn't from fear. Ethan, she whispered. He stirred in bed, his voice groggy. Do you ever think about what they'll look like? He smiled sleepily, opening one eye. Every day. Belle laughed softly. Already? Already, he murmured, pulling her into his arms. If it's a girl, she'll have your smile. If it's a boy, God help us, he'll have my temper. Belle giggled quietly against his chest. Then we're doomed. He kissed the top of her head. No. We're blessed. They stayed like that for a long while, wrapped in each other, the rain whispering against the windows. Outside, the city lights flickered like stars on wet asphalt. Inside, the CEO who once ruled boardrooms and the doctor in training who healed strangers held on to something far more fragile and far more powerful than ambition. A family. 2 months later, the hospital hallways had grown familiar again, but whispers began to follow Belle wherever she went. A nurse had seen her rush to the bathroom one too many times. A junior intern had overheard Shine scolding her about skipping meals. By the end of the week, rumors had spread through the intern's lounge. Did you hear? Dr. Ramos's favorite intern might be pregnant. Who? Belle Perez? No way. She's engaged to Ethan Delval, right? Maybe it's true. Belle could feel the shift when she entered a room, the quiet stares, the hushed voices that trailed off when she passed. And Dr. Ramos? He wasn't blind. During morning rounds, he finally asked her to stay behind. The others filed out, exchanging anxious looks. When the door closed, he turned toward her, arms crossed. Miss Perez, he said calmly, I need to ask something, and I expect honesty. Belle's throat tightened. Yes, doctor. You're expecting, aren't you? She froze, unable to speak. His tone wasn't accusatory, it was measured, even kind. When she didn't answer, he sighed. You don't have to confirm it. But I'm not angry. You're one of my best students, and this doesn't change that. However, you must prioritize your health now. Medicine can wait. Life cannot. Belle felt tears burning behind her eyes. Doctor, I don't want to stop. He smiled faintly. I didn't say stop. I said slow down. You've already proven yourself, Miss Perez. Don't lose yourself proving it again. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold back tears. Thank you, sir. He nodded, turning away to his paperwork. Go home early today. And tell Mr. Delval to stop calling my office to check on you. Belle flushed. He did what? Dr. Ramos chuckled quietly. Love makes men do strange things. That evening, as she drove home, Belle thought about everything, her career, her child, Ethan. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was walking two different paths. Maybe this wasn't the end of her dream after all. Maybe it was just the beginning of another. When she arrived, Ethan was waiting by the gate, holding an umbrella. The rain had started again, soft and slow. As she stepped out of the car, he walked over, shielding her from the drizzle. Rough day. Belle looked up at him, smiling through tired eyes. Not really. Just different. He tilted his head, studying her. Different good or different bad? She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. Different perfect. And in that quiet, rain-washed moment, the world outside disappeared. There was no hospital, no boardroom, no judgment. Just them, two imperfect people standing under one small umbrella, learning how to build a life big enough for three. The morning after the rain, the mansion buzzed quietly with life. A soft golden light poured in through the tall windows, painting everything in calm tones of warmth. Belle stirred awake, the faint rustle of the curtains brushing against the breeze. Ethan was already up, sitting by the balcony door with his laptop open and a mug of black coffee steaming beside him. She smiled faintly as she watched him, his focus deep, his jaw slightly tense. The Ethan she met months ago, cold, untouchable, and controlled, had softened in ways she never imagined. Yet, beneath that tenderness was still the businessman who ran an empire, the man who made entire boardrooms fall silent when he entered. Morning, she murmured, her voice still drowsy. Ethan looked up immediately, a small smile tugging at his lips. Morning, beautiful. How are you feeling? She stretched lazily under the sheets. Like I could sleep for another 10 hours. He chuckled, closing his laptop. You should. I already told Mr. O to keep breakfast ready whenever you want it. You're not rushing to work today. Belle blinked. Ethan, I can't just. He raised a hand. Doctor's orders, remember? Ramos said you need to slow down. She sighed. You spoke to him again, didn't you? I might have, Ethan said with a teasing smirk. "Ethan," she protested, sitting up. "You can't just call my boss." He laughed, setting the mug down and walking toward her. "Relax. He's not your boss, he's your mentor. And he's a good man. He cares about you, which I appreciate, because I care more." Belle rolled her eyes, though her heart softened. "You're impossible." "Maybe," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead, "but I'm yours." Later that day, Belle walked out into the garden, craving fresh air. The flowers were in full bloom, their scent filling the air as the city sounds drifted faintly in the distance. She sat on the stone bench, her hand resting on her slightly rounded belly. She still hadn't told the media, hadn't made any public statement. Ethan wanted to handle it quietly, to protect her from the attention, but the rumors had already started to swirl. Social media had begun speculating. A single photo from a charity event, her in a loose dress, standing beside Ethan, had sparked whispers. "Is she pregnant? The CEO's fiancée expecting?" Belle Perez steps away from rotations, maternity or scandal. The noise grew, and with it, the pressure. Ethan's PR team wanted to release a statement. Ethan himself was conflicted. Half of him wanted to shield Belle completely, the other half wanted to proudly tell the world she was carrying his child. But Belle, she wasn't ready. Not yet. That evening, Shine called. "Belle, turn on the news," she said urgently. Belle grabbed the remote, confusion rising as she flipped the channel. The image on the screen froze her in place. There it was, a blurry photograph of her stepping out of her car near the hospital, her coat flaring open slightly, revealing just enough for the tabloids to guess the truth. The headline read, "Ethan Delville's fiancée expecting? Inside sources confirm hospital romance." Her breath caught. "Shine." "I know," Shine interrupted. "I tried to warn you. Someone from the hospital must have leaked it." Belle's mind raced. "Oh God. Ethan's going to see this. He probably already has." At that very moment, in his office downtown, Ethan stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, the city sprawling beneath him. His phone buzzed non-stop, PR teams, investors, journalists, all demanding a statement. He didn't care about any of it. He cared about Belle, about how she'd feel seeing her private life plastered across headlines. His assistant, Malik, stepped in quietly. "Sir, do you want me to prepare a response?" Ethan exhaled slowly. "No. Not yet. Tell PR to hold off until I speak with her." Malik nodded. "Understood, sir." Ethan's jaw tightened as he looked out over the skyline. The calm he'd built for Belle, the peace he promised her, was slipping away, and he hated that he couldn't stop it. He grabbed his coat. "Cancel my next meeting. I'm going home." Belle was still in the garden when Ethan arrived. She heard the car door slam and the sharp crunch of gravel as he strode toward her. She turned, nervous, but he wasn't angry. His expression was softer, though filled with concern. "I saw it," he said simply. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Belle said quickly, her voice trembling. "I tried to stay careful. I didn't tell anyone." He reached her and gently cupped her face. "Hey! Look at me." She met his eyes, glistening with worry. "This isn't your fault," Ethan said firmly. "You've done nothing wrong. We'll handle this, together." "But the hospital." "I'll deal with it," he interrupted gently. "You don't have to face this alone." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Ethan, they'll talk. They'll twist everything. They'll make it sound like I used you to." He silenced her with a kiss, deep and reassuring. When he pulled away, his voice was calm but full of resolve. "Let them talk. I know the truth. You know the truth. And that's all that matters." Belle closed her eyes, resting her forehead against his chest. "You make it sound so simple." He smiled faintly. "Because it is. The world complicates everything, Belle, but love is simple." That night, as they sat together by the fire, Ethan's phone buzzed again. He checked it briefly and sighed. "It's PR again," he said. "They want us to make an official statement by tomorrow morning." Belle hesitated. "What do you want to say?" "I want to tell the truth," he said simply. "That I love you. That we're expecting a child. That it's nobody's business but ours." Belle bit her lip. "If we go public, there's no going back. Everyone will have an opinion." Ethan looked at her quietly. "They already do." The firelight flickered over his face, casting long shadows that softened as he reached for her hand. "Belle," he said softly, "I've built empires. I've faced competitors who wanted to destroy me. But I've never been prouder of anything than I am of this, of us. I'm not hiding it." Belle's heart swelled. The fear that had been sitting heavy on her chest began to ease. She nodded slowly, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Then let's do it. Together." The next morning, 9 a.m. The world woke to a simple post on Ethan Delval's official account. "Ethan Delval. My fiancée, Dr. Belle Perez, and I are expecting our first child. We ask for privacy and kindness during this time. Love is the only headline that matters." Within minutes, the internet exploded. Fans flooded the comments with congratulations, journalists scrambled to verify details, and across Lagos, the story was everywhere. But amid the noise, Belle sat quietly in their living room, scrolling through the post again and again. Ethan stood beside her, coffee in hand, calm as ever. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Yeah. I think I am." And for the first time since it all began, she truly meant it. But the calm wouldn't last. Because while the public celebrated, someone else had seen the post, someone who wasn't happy. In a dimly lit apartment across town, Sylvia dropped her phone on the table, her nails digging into her palm. "So it's true," she whispered bitterly. "He really chose her." Her reflection glared back from the window, dark eyes cold and burning with resentment. "Let's see how long your perfect little world lasts, Belle Perez."